Well, thank you for having me here, Kirsten. And I was at the Washington event, so I've met many of you before. So if I'm a little redundant in my introduction, forgive me. But I've been an executive in the sports and entertainment industry for about 30 years. I represented cities in sports commissions. I was their CEO, president of Philadelphia, Orlando, Los Angeles, and Louisville, Kentucky. And so my job was to work on behalf of the city, and I would do the bids for the World Cup, for the Super Bowls, for the Olympics, NCAA championships, anything sports related came under the Sports Commission office. So that's sort of my background.
And you got the Olympics to LA, not this one, the last one.
I did not do that one, but I was the co-chair of the Olympic Torch Relay. When it started, when the Atlanta Olympics in '96, we made its way from Los Angeles Coliseum over to the country. So I started the Olympic Relay in Los Angeles.
Very cool. And you're going to hear more about World Cup and that. Andrew.
So I'm basically just a nonprofit attorney. However, somehow I've managed to build a practice. We represent about 200 nonprofits, handle their oversight, governance, compliance. Among those, with a couple dozen exceptions, they're sort of in the sports and entertainment world. So whether it's athlete foundations, movie stars, singers, anybody that has a public image that they can leverage into philanthropy. I'm sure you've seen athletes love to be out there doing philanthropy, but not a lot of them know how to do it. They're driven by, they're good people doing great things for the right reasons. They're just doing it the wrong way because they don't know any better. So we have an easy job. We just sort of behind the scenes make sure that what they're doing right. And more of a challenge than you might think, but it's highly effective, as we know. I mean, we live in a world where people care what celebrities are wearing, what they're driving, and who they're marrying and divorcing and cheating on. And, so the idea is we'll take that same sort of passion for connection with celebrity and use it to promote philanthropic missions. And pretty effective, like you said, J.J. Watt or, the Dodgers with the LA Fires. It just happens to be sort of this lightning rod for attention. And, the idea is how do we sort of take that public kind of interest and get them to donate, get them to raise awareness, get them to take actions to sort of help out these causes.
Well, it's not just behind the scenes, because you called me from Super Bowl.
I'm still behind the scenes.
It was
I'm
tough.
professional plus one. I mean, let's be honest. If I'm anywhere, it's because I'm behind somebody. Nobody invites me to stuff. But
You were literally there. The other story to go with Andrew. So ever since, Paal was conceived in Katrina and born in COVID. So Katrina hits, we get a call from the largest NGO. I was at KPMG at the time. We had the only practice that served the underbanked, right? So 50 million people in the US. And so we get a call from the largest NGO and said, these people can't evacuate. They don't have any money. They don't have bank accounts. We can't deposit in. Plus, all of the banks with the cash locally are physically underwater. So can you help us do this? So we did just under $1 million pro bono project, converted that NGO over. And so then I started getting calls whenever there were these disasters. And so the JJ Watts, there was couple of other very big names you guys would know. And they called and said, well, JJ's raising X, I can raise 2X, 3X. And I said, oh, really? Okay. And I already have it in my bank account. Whose bank account? Well, my personal bank account. All my buddies transferred money into my account. And I said, and you want to give that out to the public? Like, dude, you're technically money laundering. No, you can't do that. So I get to refer them now to Andrew to keep them out of jail.
Well, I don't know about intro or what it's circle back, but here's sort of for fintech people. I'm not a fintech person. I went to law school because there's no math requirement, so I don't do numbers. Here's where this was a game changer when she called, is that under nonprofit law, there's this concept called expenditure responsibility, the only legal term I promise I'll drop. What that basically means is that based on who you're giving to as a nonprofit, you have to do a commensurate amount of diligence to ensure that it got where it was supposed to go. When you give to other nonprofits, you don't have to do anything because you're one 501c3 giving to another C3. They're under the same restrictions that the grantor, the grantee, so there's no issue there. What happens with disasters is you want to get money to individuals, but expenditure responsibility says that if you give to individuals, you have to circle back. You have to get receipts. You have to take common sense steps to ensure that it got where it needed to go. And for that reason, like she said, a lot of people just don't give to individuals. Like my clients, before I was introduced to this whole concept, I said, hell no, we're not giving individuals. Like if you want to give a scholarship, we'll give it to the bursar's office. You know, you want to give medical relief, we'll give it to the hospital. I don't want any cash to touch an individual from a nonprofit. What this did was basically make the expenditure responsibility just self-fulfilling, because you're able to give out these cards. It can't be used for alcohol. It can't be used for tobacco. It has to be used for groceries and essentials. And from a nonprofit perspective, that just changed everything, because there's no other way to get fungible, get cash into people's hands and not have to worry about how it's being used. So when this concept was introduced, that's when clients started to understand I can give directly to individuals and not tick off my lawyer who says never give money to individuals. This sort of connected the dots in between nonprofit law and individual receipt of funds that they can use to purchase what they need to purchase.
See, you can do numbers.
I didn't mention a single number except 41.
So, Mark, you can channel Linwood. I know you two have worked together for years.
So I put the red shoes on. No. So Linwood Bibbins, President, CEO, founder of Reach TV. I met Linwood about 15 years ago, and he comes out of the corporate world and the multimedia and communications world, and he had a vision for a new concept of news and positive, kind of programming versus the typical CNN that you would used to. And by the way, I'm not against CNN, but we took over all their airports, and where they used to be, we are now. But we bring truth and positivity into the public spaces. We're in the top 100 airports domestically in the United States of America. We're in some of the top sports stadiums and venues across the country and even international. We're in agreement with the top three-letter sports leagues, MLB, NFL, NBA, racing, and then anything to do with entertainment, lifestyle, and again, truth and positivity. But Linwood also had a vision early on that we have this captive audience, and one example of that would be Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, where they entertain on any day that ends in Y at the equivalent of a 3x Super Bowl audience every day, physical. And everybody that's rolling in and out of these airports either has one or two of our magical mobile devices. So you've got a captive, upwardly mobile audience on the go, and that have time, attention, and many have the willingness to give. And so our concept is to build out what already exists and utilize the X factor that the stars and the athletes and the sports bring, and influence into our world of philanthropy and giving. And so this is the vision. It's taken us a little while to get here. And on that journey, that's when I met Kirsten, and I met Diane, and ultimately Andrew, and here we are.
Excellent. And it's more than a vision. We actually tested it purposely in a tiny airport that hadn't had a disaster.
Yeah.
But the idea was that those screens that you will now notice when you go to the airport, it was to run a 30-second, it was a video from Jim about floods, I think.
It was floods, and I'll give credit to Jim. You helped us put that content together. And it was just done on the fly. But Michael said, all right, Mark, I want to get our name out there. Not everybody knows who Global Empowerment Mission is. So Michael agreed to be a volunteer on that. So we're proving it up. It's only beginning, but we have this audience and we have this platform. And Linwood's goal and vision is to build it out with all of you and make it happen where at the end of any given day, week, or month, we can just say, wow, we moved the bar in Atlanta or Miami or Chicago or New York or Los Angeles fires, and we can then utilizing all of our smart partnership resources here, come back to the donors and say, look what happened in Los Angeles. Look what happened in Atlanta. Look what happened in Miami. So we're excited about this.
So now when you're stuck at an airport looking at a screen, bored to tears because your flight just got delayed another hour, if there's a disaster or some campaign, there'll be a QR code
Yep.
on the screen and you can donate, and we're following every law, every rule we have to for compliance. And then we partner with a partner on the ground like Jem, and they would have whoever the people it's supposed to go to. But our job again is to clear that constipation of money movement. Dave?
Curious question, is we've looked at doing things in airports before as it relates to selling gift cards, and there's an insatiable thirst for margin in the airports. Is that something that is not an issue as it relates to charitable donations?
So the test so far has been, this actually came about because Linwood's mission, truth, positivity,
Yeah.
and generosity. He said, I want to add the generosity part, but I don't want to do the work that you all are doing. Will you do it for Reach TV? And so it's not the margin and the spend in the Dunkin' Donuts or whatever. This is money raised, and then it'll go out to recipients in disaster. There's another piece that will involve the vendors that are there, but for right now, the first phase is focused on money in and then back out to survivors.
Are you asking what the airports charge to
Yeah.
to put the ads up on the screens?
So here's the great part of it. With any broadcast network in an environment like airports, it's all about the passenger positive experience. And anything you can do in an airport to support, I'll give an example, human trafficking, okay? The message in the airport, see something, say something, okay? Well, it's the do good part of the world of multimedia and advertising. So what we're all trying to do together is the do good part. And all of the major brick and mortars that are in the airports have foundations, and they're reaching this audience anyway with a donut or a cup of coffee. So they already have millions and millions of dollars set aside for philanthropic, outreach. All we're doing is building the conduit to get those eyeballs, that attention, and help find the right people, the right place, in the right projects.
Well, and Mark, I was surprised when you first shared that because the airports are government property, and that's media, that a certain percentage has to be spent on
Yes.
philanthropic.
Yeah, about 30% of every network hour has to have a humanitarian component to it. You'll see, like we're in the USOs. Where everywhere you go in an airport, maybe you'll notice it more now, you'll see different foundations have their either static images on their posters or their in-store promotions, like where you're paying it forward for soldiers and different things that are going on. So, airports, for all intents and purposes, are just huge cities. And you've got that audience. And the nice thing about airports is people have the time, they have the money, and then they have the desire to want to do something good.
I have an idea, we can talk later.
Can you tee up David's video? And meanwhile, Jason, you got pulled into this at 5 a.m. But you work with Bruce, and Bruce has been telling me for months about the work that you do to bring in emergency vehicles. All he's talked about so far is Paraguay, which is huge. But you and I were talking earlier, yes, you need the vehicles, yes, you need the stuff, but the money part is, talk a little bit.
Yeah, so we
Tell about
used
your
to,
organization first, I'm sorry.
so Hero Foundation is the U.S. nonprofit that operates Hero Client Rescue in Haiti. That's basically 911 for the country. The EMS service didn't exist in the country prior to 2014. We went after the earthquake in 2010 and sort of started it with an idea and an ambulance. And now, a bunch of years later, as of 2026, we just got our 4th helicopter. We've got, basically, we cover the entire country. We are the medevac, emergency medical services provider for the UN, U.S. Embassy, all the locals, all the NGOs and the governments there. We're moving on from operations into a more of an infrastructure role. We've been invited by the government of Paraguay to partner with their Ministry of Health and do a entire audit of their public health system infrastructure to show them how they can take what infrastructure they've had and actually make it function and serve the populace, which is 60% of the country relies on it. So the next step for us is to come up with a way to upgrade all of their communications infrastructure, technology, payment processing, prescription management, electronic health records. And that's going to start with a massive 90-day needs and capabilities assessment in partnership with the Ministry of Health, and then to go out and find the right application and partners to implement a real structure to their system so that they can actually start utilizing what they have and manage it properly. Things like training, clinical hit guidelines, just anything that could allow a doctor in a remote region in the middle of nowhere in Paraguay to see the same data and access the same tools as the people in the capital and Asuncion, the bigger hospitals.
You're going to be here for happy hour
Yeah.
as well. Very cool. Because one of the things we were talking about is there's no transparency in the money. It goes, who knows?
They have no idea what happens to their yearly budget other than it disappears every year. They can't track a penny of it.
It seemed like an opportunity. Cedric, do you have David's slides?
It's a PowerPoint thing.
PowerPoint, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't,
I've got it.
know it's,
No, I've got it. Dave, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, so, hello, my name is David Harrison. Actually used to play in the NBA. I was drafted in 2004. That year, we had Katrina. I still remember it impacted our community so much because there was a team in New Orleans at the time. We were actually on the schedule to play them in a few games when it happened. And basically what ended up happening is, oh, we have the slides up now.
We'll be in a minute.
Oh. There it is. We
Thank
can
you.
go to the next slide. You can see me like dunk on people.
Right, you've never seen that many guys, right?
So after I did this, I actually joined Morgan Stanley, sports and entertainment division. A lot of these things that you're talking about with, the legal and all these other talks, like the donations and having to deal with those nightmares. But, when I was in the league, Katrina happened, we watched entire communities disappear. We head to the next slide. Individually, our team raised over $1 million. We wore our patches. We did all these other things. We cared, but, to this day, I couldn't tell you who, where, what, anything, where any of that money went. We go to the next one. Like I said, for us, our fans are crucial. So, for us, being able to lead them to good sources and good outcomes is a critical aspect of us supporting any institution, any organization, any idea. And so the biggest thing that's been fixed, and we have the next one, is, the organization that Kirsten's put together, Payments of the Lifeline, being able to ethically show immutable data to individuals saying, Billy bought his milk at 6:30 to get this. Billy didn't buy these things. All of those things are now accessible. All those things are now tangible. You have companies in this room that are able to assemble, their unique technologies and deliver very, very potent and fast outcomes, which is the key, is fast, getting people their money when they need it. And then I think we just have the last one here. Sports, like we were talking about, it's the emotional engine of this country. Disaster response in sports, if we could work and coincide together, like the airport programs and things like that, every game, you could have a QR code on your jersey. You could, after your press conference, just set it up right in front of you. All of these outcomes and all of these outreaches are very accessible, but there has to be a level of trust. And that's what organizations like Paal, SKUX, and other companies do, for this industry. So, like I said, I'd like to thank you guys for watching me dunk on people. And, thank you very much for the panel.
Well, we've got, come on back. That what was really cool, as we've been looking, we know there's money, and like we've been told all day long, people want to donate, people want to help, but they don't want to be suckers. Nobody wants to be a sucker. So you're going to channel Fix Foundation as well, you too.
Sure.
So Bruce, who's not here, who's filming, one of the reasons we connected at a quantum computing conference recently. You're going to hear more about that in a minute. But he has this foundation, and he said, I can raise so much money through my contacts in
West Palm, like where.
well, that and his presence. If you guys look him up online or IMDb, he's got quite a listing of movies and all. So you've got sports people, you've got actors and all, you've got influencers. They can raise money, but none of us want to give money if we don't know that it's going to go where it's supposed to. There's just so many really icky stories about money raised and not going where it's supposed to. All of our fintech hearts in the room, we can fix that, but we've got to get that message out that it's possible to do. So, Diane, you've got a video which I'm going to ask Edward to help us play. Maybe at the break, but let's talk to you for now,
Okay.
and then we can so people can see it. But it's listening to you the first time and all of the initiatives. I'm going to have you rattle them off in a minute. It's like, how could you be involved with the Pope and with just all this stuff? And it's for good. Can you tell us the initiatives you're in?
So I have the Legends for Peace, which are former soccer legends, played on U.S. national team, MLS, international legends, and I bring them together for disaster relief efforts. We did it a few years ago when the Ukraine war broke out. We wanted to help with the local Philadelphia, well, they were the national office for the refugees to help them to raise money for Ukraine. So there's my Legends for Peace. I have the Dare to Dream program, which is a mentoring program for students. It just introduces them to careers behind the scenes in sports and entertainment, not disaster relief related. And now I have the World Peace Project that I'm producing, and that's what the video is about. And the Legends for Peace are coming back for the World Peace Project this summer around the World Cup when it comes to the U.S. in June. And Philadelphia's going to be hosting some World Cup games. So we're launching, should I mention? So I went to the Vatican last June at the invitation of a group called Sport at the Service of Humanity that Andrew knows. And it was for the Jubilee of Sports. And Pope Leo gave us a message in that event. We had an audience, wasn't like a personal audience, but there was all the sports leaders there. And he said, we need to be missionaries of faith, unity, peace through sports. And so having the sports background that I have in the 30 years running all these sports commissions, and I knew the World Cup was coming next year, I decided World Peace Project. We need to do something for world peace. And some of the activities we're doing is a World Cup watch party to opening night. I'm bringing the legends back when USA plays Paraguay in LA. And so we're going to have people watching the World Cup on a big screen with former soccer legends. So that kicks off the weekend. Then we're going to have soccer clinics for kids, inner city kids, underserved kids with the legends, and a youth peace summit, which is really how it all started with Sports for Humanity. I feel like our kids, if we don't have peace for our kids now, they have no future. So there's a lot of things that are going on in the world with, just the craziness, the political side to the wars to whatever. I want to get to the young students about the importance of conflict resolution, teamwork, global citizenship, how they can go outside of their own community, their own school, and do things for good and learn about different charitable work that they could be doing. And the other component of this is responsible use of artificial intelligence and social media, because that causes a lot of, it's here to stay. We're not getting away from the technology, but we want to get to the kids about the responsible use of it. So it's all tying into the World Peace Project, with soccer, with youth development, with the Legends for Peace. So that's what we're launching. That's my video I'm going to show you a little bit about there. But I want to, as I was listening to everyone, the whole Katrina thing actually, and disaster relief in Ukraine, our sports commissions that I mentioned I was part of and all this, there's a role that these city sports commissions and the sports world can participate in. Doug Thornton, who ran the Superdome in New Orleans, when Katrina happened, he was the head of the New Orleans Sports Commission. He went on to work for the Superdome. And they had to take in all the people, if you remember, the stadiums, the arenas. And so cities across the US that maybe there isn't a disaster in Philadelphia or in Boston or in Kansas City, but something could happen. And it could be a grid thing, it could be a cyber attack. And then you're gonna have disaster relief. It's not hurricanes and it's not wars, but it's other disaster things that could happen. So I think engaging the sports world into the disaster relief industry, area, there's a lot of potential, opportunities there to help each other, and that's kind of how I see it. And I'm connected into over 800 cities across the U.S. We have a National Association of Sports Commissions. They have an annual conference. You can go there. You can promote. I would say it might be something that you'd like to be at, Kirsten, to promote the whole industry that you're behind, the Fintech. So and see how they can correlate.
Well, Diane, thank you for serving on the Paal Advisory Council. A lot of folks have asked, so who's on the advisory council? And you'll see on the new website more of the faces, but the caliber, how else do you get to these organizations this quickly because they trust her? Cedric, did you have a question?
No, the video works.
Oh, it's ready? Oh, okay, you want to play it?
This was just last week. We launched the World Peace Project in Philadelphia.
We learn so much through sports, and internationally, when you meet other people and you play a sport together, you pick them up, they pick you up, you love the game, you love each other, and you leave all the other worries behind. It's the greatest gift.
Sport teaches life lessons. It teaches growth. It gives you discipline in your faith. You need faith. You need soccer to bring joy.
Soccer definitely unifies the world. It's a language. No matter where you go, if you talk about soccer, I'm not a friend. Soccer could stop all barriers of hate. What Diane is doing, it can definitely get the entire world to be part of this dream.
The World Peace Project, where faith leaders, athletes, students, and coaches, people from all socioeconomic backgrounds and faiths will come together to inspire peace in our communities, our schools, and in our homes. I had the honor of visiting the Vatican for the Jubilee of Sports. Pope Leo left us with a powerful message. How can we bring together people in a way that speaks across cultures, backgrounds, and beliefs? Sports was the answer. It's a universal language that unites and brings people together from all over the world. We will kick off the weekend with a World Cup watch party, joined by our Legends for Peace and some of our favorite local Philly sports stars. We will invite 100 underserved kids to spend an afternoon with the Legends and participate in a soccer clinic. Rounding out the weekend, we're especially privileged to partner with Sport at the Service of Humanity, who will host over 500 high school students at our Youth Peace Summit, because peace begins when young people are inspired and included.
Knowing that Diane Roth is involved, somebody who knows how to execute and put on great events, somebody who knows how to lead and lead in the community. I mean, this is somebody you want to follow and be attached to.
And so I am excited to see what World Productions is bringing to the city to enrich our children, enrich our community, and give back to us as a whole.
It is bringing people and generations together, and Philadelphia will have the eyes of the world turn here to watch the FIFA matches, bringing families together, bringing nations together who are interested in being connected to an event that is going to captivate the world. You should be involved in this profound connection through sports and peace.
I think World Peace Project is a catalyst for so many good things. Please consider a donation to the World Peace Project, because the programs they're going to be doing throughout the World Cup are going to be unprecedented, and they will touch so many young lives. I can't wait to be a part of it.
The 250th anniversary of the country, Philadelphia will be the centerpiece of the world this summer. What an opportunity to learn about our history in the birthplace of the nation, and then come in and make some of this possible for the kids that otherwise might not be able to even come downtown.
or to go to a museum, or to sit with professional soccer play and learn about their journey. This is a really easy one to get behind, in my opinion. Sports are a uniting force for good, and that's what this is all about.
Somebody said something about storytelling earlier. Okay. We have all the brain power in the world in this room right now to get whatever message we want to whoever we want to get it to with accountability. Kirsten always talks about this light under this basket, this biblical light that, like her father said, all we're trying to do with sports and entertainment and multimedia is help in the storytelling, wherever the audience is, and it just seems those environments reaches, and we have that capability. So we're excited to work with all of you.
So we've got the kids involved in sports. We've got sports personalities. Andrew, what inspires your clients to create a foundation, and what would inspire them to want to raise money for some of the causes here?
I mean, the answer is going to sound cliche, but it's the truth. I mean, I hear all the time people they're like, come on, be honest. Like, they just do this to get attention. They just do this to make themselves look good. And I look them in the eye and say, go, you know what, yourself. Like, that's insulting. Like, these are guys who, they get that they were blessed with certain talents, certain advantages. That's how you get to be an athlete. I mean, I could have from day one wanted to be an offensive lineman in the NFL. Probably not going to happen. So, and again, I'm sure, David, you spent countless hours practicing to play basketball. You didn't practice being 9.5 feet tall. That was just luck of the draw. So, these guys that I work with, they legitimately just feel like they need to pay it forward. They want to give back. They have their pet causes that could have been triggered by tragedy, could have been triggered by just sort of reliving in their head what they went through as kids in an inner city, or whatever struggles it took for them to get to where they want to be. And so they are sincerely, passionately dedicated to the cause. But again, it comes down to that, okay, you want to do that, but it's the how. And that's what, again, when Kirsten brought to me this whole idea of the prepaid card, she told me never say gift card, right? Not a gift card. The prepaid cards, again, getting back to that legal piece, it does two things, I think. One is what I was talking about. It ensures that it's a way to get cash to people without giving cash to people, so that you can be compliant with IRS, with state laws, and make sure that you're not funding things that you shouldn't be funding. The other thing that occurred to me, and we haven't even talked about this, it literally came up at the happy hour last night, is that a lot of the disaster response is reactionary, right? It's the disaster happens and then they step in. You have COVID and you have Steph Curry and Michael Phelps and all stepping in. You have J.J. Watt in Houston. So the question is, like, how can you be more proactive? And by messaging that we have this tool that is sitting and waiting and ready when it has to be deployed, that's, I think, how we can get these guys even more excited, because they've been through tragedy, they've been through hardship, most of them. And to sort of make that pitch is help us raise funds into whether it's the Paal Foundation that we set up, or whatever other vehicles where the money can just be ready and waiting. Like, nobody's going to give to a foundation to just sit on a bunch of cash. But if we message, you give your dollars, you donate to these causes, and we're just going to have a stack of prepaid cards ready to go when the next disaster hits. I think that's a message that could resonate really easily, like a lot more. It's just going to mean a lot more than saying, give a bunch of money, we'll keep it in a pot, and we'll start handing out, 5s and 10s when a disaster happens. I'm most interested in figuring out how to make it proactive. And I think that, this technology, what you guys are doing, the more that you can develop these fintech products or services, whatever you call it, so that it's ready and waiting for the next disaster before it happens. I think that's where the opportunity is, because these guys will get behind that. I mean, they can identify with it just like the rest of us can. We can all identify with, with struggle and with hardship.
I was going to say, for me, my father played NFL. It's kind of funny. The apartment we grew up in, we played for the Eagles. It's actually in one of your shots.
Yes.
But he played the NFL. My little sister currently plays WNBA. And we as a family put our passion behind lupus. My little brother and my oldest sister was afflicted with lupus. It's a disease not many people knew about, but just being able to, put on the purple ribbon and, showcase that, then I would be asked, how can I donate? How can I do this? And when it goes to a family fund, it doesn't look like it's really going anywhere. But with, services like Paal, oh, scan this QR code. I was just thinking of a fun thing to do. I should get a T-shirt that has a QR code that says, "Want to know how tall I am? Scan donate," and then figure it out. But, those are just, like I said, little tiny things athletes could do with these technologies that we're able to assemble to show immutability, transparency, and trust. That is the key. Is trust. Is being able to say, "Hey, I feel good about giving this because it's going to go to a good place."
Just piggyback on that, there's no better time to push transparency and trust after the black eye that international aid and NGOs got over the past couple of years. It's just, I know donations are down across the board. Nobody kind of trusts where that money ends up anymore. So this is the time.
This is the time. Kirsten and I had the privilege through Operation Hope to be on a panel in Altadena and one in Palisades. And there's $3.5 billion sitting on the sideline in Los Angeles that hasn't found its way to one survivor. Right? Kirsten and I were up on the stage, and these people that had lost everything, their homes, their businesses, some have lost loved ones, are just sitting there looking for a light of hope, a little bit of hope. And with Operation Hope, excuse the pun, we had a chance to get involved with some people, and we're working on some projects in Los Angeles. But the tragedy that happened right after the fires was $100 million was raised and lost. Okay?
It did go to charities, but not
It did, yeah, but not one of the people in the audience said, well, I didn't see, any of that or this and there were some good foundations that did receive some money. But now we're rebounding, and we're going to do LA 2.0, and Hope will be involved with us, and others in the room will as well. But we're going to do it the right way this time. So the next 100 million that comes in, we'll have the data. We'll have everything there, and hopefully that will encourage resilient giving.
And Andrew, I'm writing down. Once I write it down, it happens. Got to connect about how to get that message out.
Well, I guess this is a different way of saying maybe what I said before, but people don't want to give money. Right? They're not interested in giving money. I tell my clients, never ask for a donation with zeros, because $5,000 means nothing. $10,000 means nothing. If you go to a potential donor and say, I need you to donate $4,962, and they go, where the hell did you come up with that number? You say, well, here's the budget. Here's where it's going to go to. Now, people want to feel like they gave something, not just cash. It's all about connecting their gift with their ability to say, I helped that. One of the most effective campaigns in history was the old Sally Struthers, for $3 a month, you can feed this, and they would literally send you a picture of your kid that you are feeding. And no, you're not. You're throwing your money in a pot, but by connecting your donation with where it's going to go, that's when people say, they're like, oh, I fed a kid, who was starving in Africa or in wherever the hardship was. That's the key and that's again what I think that this technology does is somebody's not, if it's framed right, they're not thinking I gave $100 toward prepaid cards. They're thinking I gave $100 toward food and water and clothing and whatever these urgent needs are. So that's the message has to be crafted around, what is the ultimate goal? You're not just throwing cash in a pot. You're going to be able to say later when the next disaster happens, oh, I helped feed that family because I gave to this pot of money that was dedicated to individual relief through prepaid cards. So, when we can sort of draw that connection, you don't ask for money, you ask to solve problems. And this is a huge way of solving the problem because, again, it gets around what has been a legal hurdle for long before I got into this, is you don't give money to people. Because if you give money to people, you run afoul of the IRS. You put all these responsibilities on yourself that you have to follow up. You got to get receipts. You got to be able to tell the agencies exactly where that money went. And having the ability to sort of knock that out and just say, look, we know exactly where it's going to go. And my understanding is after the fact, right? You can see like on a card by card level down to somebody was telling down to the SKU level, you could figure out how the money was used. So if IRS comes around and says, we see you gave, $1 million out to individual recipients, like how was that used? You don't need me yapping away like, well, we've supported this, that, and the other. Just run a report and say, here's how it was all used, dollar for dollar. And, that, like I said, that clears a legal hurdle that's been around for as long as I can remember, is you don't give money to individuals. Now we can. And we can both give money to individuals and meet this expenditure responsibility requirement.
Kirsten, last time we were together in Washington, I think we left the next day, we had a little session there. We talked about a marketing and communications plan so that people can know about what's going on in this fintech world and how you are giving money out to individuals. So, going back to your storytelling, you need to tell the story of how this all works. And when you're talking about athletes and foundations, you have teams and leagues. So if you had this communication tool, whether it's a video or whatever, and they're playing it in the stadium at the Philadelphia Eagles game, think about 60,000 people seeing that with a QR code, and you're talking about where the money's going for disaster relief or whatever the particular cause is. So anyway, it's a marketing and communications strategy you need to kind of...
Yeah, and especially involving sport. Way back when, there was a text, Haiti campaign, and $100 million was raised at the Super Bowl. Okay, but the unfortunate part was the transparency of where that $100 million went. There's many in Haiti that will still tell you that it never got there.
Oh, it never got there.
Jason.
I was there on the ground from 2010 to 17. Yeah,
Exactly.
that was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. Is what happened with the way almost every dollar earmarked for Haiti disappeared, never made it to that country.
Could you speak to kind of like what you did with the helicopters?
The recent one, the last earthquake in 23?
Oh, the program that you set up for.
For moving money? Oh, that's for the bank.
Oh.
I can't talk
Yeah.
about
That's why I asked if you could.
Yeah, no,
I think you have a question.
I just had a question. I want to make sure from a media standpoint, you communicate that correctly. When you put in a payment card today, the technology allows you to figure out where to, maybe the patient level, but it's rare only in the healthcare field today where it's coded to know the item you spent. So when we say that, I want to be very sure there is technology coming, but to make sure to say we know the money was spent at Walmart, and we make the assumption, but I don't think most merchants unfortunately don't pass that information back to us to say they bought a blanket, they bought a bicycle. It's healthcare, they do it now because of the coding, they can tell you it's about aspirin versus shampoo, but I just want to make sure we're careful in the messaging that it does disseminate it, but you can't, you get in trouble with the IRS. You really say they bought this, a specific item. They may have bought it in the store, that goods make sense. I just want to make sure we're clear about that.
Ted, you've got a good point. In this vertical, just having the data that says it was a gas station or it was a grocery store is huge because there's never been that data before. And in one of our next sessions, we're going to talk about the capabilities of the SKU level, which we've seen if anybody's had a flexible spending account card, how that applies to disaster. And then we're going to talk about disaster savings accounts as well. So one of the reasons folks come to our events is you always hear about what's coming, and part of it is what you do. All right, we are at right time. Did anybody have a closing?
I just want to say thank you to all of you for caring so much to be here. And together we can do great things.
Just wanted to say also thank you as well. It's amazing to be able to come here, the impact that everyone wants and is trying to deliver. And then, on our side, we go out and we create the technology to make that easier. So just would love to work with anyone in the room that would like to partner. Just talk about solutions, driving, getting money to people as fast as possible and saving lives.
And again, you guys have solved a problem that's been in the nonprofit space forever. Until I met Kirsten, learned about this technology, I've probably said it 2 or 3 times already. I told every single client, you're not giving a single dollar to an individual. You're just not. We'll give to third parties on behalf of them. We will not give to individuals. And that has always been a struggle of, again, how, like everybody's saying, that the relief never got to where it's supposed to go. It's certainly not at individual level. So to the extent you guys are talking about this, that's a key piece from like a philanthropy standpoint, is that this technology has connected the dots between giving to individuals and being in compliance with IRS and with state attorneys general. And that, for me, like I said, was a total game changer. It was now, instead of telling clients, you're never giving to individuals, I say, if it's easy to give to a third party, like again, scholarship to a bursar's office, fine. But if you want to give to individuals, I got a way to do that now. I never had that for 12.5 years.
That's a great way to wrap this one up. Thank you.
Thank you.